The following has been brought to you by SJP World Media.
Oh, it's so funny, right? Because when the intro plays, first of all, yo, everyone, welcome to the show. When the intro plays, obviously we see the intro on the big screen, don't we? That is like our screen, but we can see each other in two tiny little screens at the bottom, can't we? All the time. And when the intro plays and it starts playing the actual chain wrestling theme, both of us sit here going.
It's part habit, part just drilled into us to do it.
Yeah.
It's like Pavlovian when they got the dogs to salivate to the sound of a bell. We do it to the sound of chain wrestling's intro music.
Yeah. See, now my OCD will go mad if that ever doesn't happen now.
Well, you're the one who changes up the intro videos anyway, so you'll have to make sure you always put that music in.
Oh yeah, always got. Oh yeah, there's somebody. I don't know if I've said this already on the show, but somebody else is using it as well now. Have you seen this?
They're cheeky. I mean, it's happening too much now recently.
Wow, I didn't. I wasn't going to bring that up, but I might this week actually.
Yeah, you should. I mean,
yeah.
Some big organizations have tried to steal our thunder. We're not having it. We'll take you down.
Have you heard of Marty and Michael? These two people in Australia. They're like, you know, you get these people who do like prank videos on each other, and they're YouTubers. And
I've not heard them, but I know the style.
Yes, and these two, I've been watching them for quite a while. They genuinely make me laugh. They hurt each other so bad, it's fucking hysterical.
Oh,
especially
brilliant.
Yeah, especially the one guy who, whenever he's got this thing in his head that if he's in a lot of pain, if he runs, the pain eases. So he always tries to run whenever he's been shot with an air rifle or some crazy shit they're doing. It's brilliant. But not even recently, probably for the last sort of 6 months or so, I've been watching a video of theirs, and they've been like not their theme, but like background music for something they're showing us, like the rules of a game they're playing or something like that. I'm sat there going, and I went, hang on. That's our fucking music.
And I bet you it happened for about 6 months and you were just nodding along and it only just twigged.
The thing is, it's literally just stock music, isn't it? So it's not like anyone owns it, you know.
Yeah,
so anyone can
really
use
whinge
it.
about it.
All right, I'll stop then. Let's move on.
Yeah, good. Let's move on.
Fucking hell. Oh, dear me. Magsy, I'm in quite a silly mood today.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking before we started recording, and I said I feel like I'm disorganized today, even though I know that I'm organized. I've got everything lined up. I've got all my info on one screen, all my notes on another screen, but I just feel disorganized. And then you drop the bombshell about what you've been up to today, and now I feel terrified.
Well, yeah, we're not allowed to talk about it. Spy pen.
I told Mrs. Maggs about that, and she just looked at me and just shook her head like, he's a child, isn't he? Like, yes, he's a child. He's excited about his new job because he got a pen with a light on.
It's fucking brilliant, this pen. I love it. It's amazing. I want another one. I might have to see if I can get some.
Not worth it, or you laugh.
Also, that's starting at 8 o'clock every night. It works on a Monday night. It works well because also I got to go to bed to get up early in the morning, etc., etc. But I've noticed that, well, this week I tried to have the poll done and dusted, ready, so I could watch the matches last night.
Okay.
So that I weren't getting in off the bus.
So you were getting prepared.
Yes. But the poll finished. I forgot to watch the matches last night. So then when I got in from work...
You were prepared, but you didn't start.
I did. So then I got home from work and I made myself something to eat. Then I came upstairs to brought my notes up and all that. I was like, oh shit, it's King of the Ring 93. Magsy's cheated again and chosen 3 matches. It's going to take me even longer.
But they were 3 bloody good matches, weren't they?
Yeah, but it's cheating, isn't it?
You tried it. You just failed.
Maybe.
So my picks have won 7 matches in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. I've got a match I've never seen before for my pick later.
Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. It'll lose to man, I guarantee it.
It probably will, mate. It probably will. Because I guarantee you're going to bend the rules and pick,
absolutely not. I'm playing fairly within the scope of the rules. 1 match, 1 quite important match to be fair, and we'll get there.
Okay, interesting. We'll have to wait and see where we go at the end of the show. But that's the end of the show. Magsy, we should begin the show, shouldn't we?
We should.
We should. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, an SJP World Media production, episode 145. I am Si. And with me, as always, is the Razor Ramon to my Shamon. Motherfucker. Kind of works.
What Charlotte is in the chat.
Kind of works. Kind of rhymes. And it's an opponent that Bret had at King of the Ring. So it works there, Max. Don't you having that one?
I mean, you said it. We can't put the jam back in the jar, can we?
No, this is true. This is true. The Bam Bam to my Whoa Black Belly. Bam. That works as well.
Oh, good Lord.
That works as well.
You're giving away you're a middle-aged old rocker.
And the song is by a group called Ram Jam, which also rhymes with Bam Bam. Levels, Mags. Fucking levels.
I mean, yeah, okay. You use your wit 1 time in 140 episodes.
I love it. A podcaster who has to stop cheating and only choose 1 match for the poll from now on. The podfather himself, Lord Mags. You've been poorly, my friend.
Yeah, I was asked to do a guest appearance on another show. I'm not going to give it away because I think that's going to be happening in the near future. But yeah, Corona has destroyed my what's it called? Immune system. Everything that goes around I catch now. People can't even breathe in my vicinity without me then picking up whatever illness they've had. Yeah, so I was a little bit rough. Yeah.
Are you better now?
I mean, I'll never be better. I will manage now, but the Mag's cough may come into force later on. Who knows?
Brilliant stuff. Okay, and I will do my usual subtle way of drawing attention to it by going, "Oh, Magsy cough in there," because I feel by doing that,
bad human being.
Well, no, because I feel by doing that, it covers our asses for the audio version, so I've not got to edit it.
Or you could just edit it out. I mean, just be a nice human being.
I'm not going to do that.
No, tosser. Sorry.
Let's see. Let's see who's joined us in the chat early doors.
Let's go for it. So, first on the books and the provider of our lovely artwork, and to be fair, made me look like a damn sexy natty Neidhart. I was very impressed with that.
Has everyone seen that, by the way? Has everyone seen that picture? That was the thumbnail, wasn't it?
It was the thumbnail for the YouTube video. I don't know if it goes on to the other ones, but before you click on the video, that's the picture. I look scrumptious. I would not have kicked myself out of bed.
We look hot, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, the beard is a bit, but you can't have everything.
The blonde hair. I mean, to be fair, I could tie my hair up and do it that way anyway if Sharon bleached it for me.
I didn't think he edited yours at all. I thought that was
no. I'd do me. So...
but it was a great image. So King Pig Banners, thank you very much for that. And he says, "Evening all." James Yam All Right comes in and says, "Evening lads." Sharon with the Monday special, and thankfully he's back on a Monday. It's Monday night. You know what that means. Tyler Peters in the chat. Hello, sir. How are you? He says, "Hey, fellas." And King Pigsbladder saying hello to the rest of the seeded ref. Dan, straight away with the insults. Evening, ball bags. Evening to you, cock. Dan says you need to send the At Least You Tried cake from The Simpsons to Sar for attempting preparation and just attempting anything, Danny. Just getting one delivered every day of his life forever, because there will be some point during every 24 hours where he tries something and fails miserably.
Yeah, true. And I get shitloads I get shitloads of cake, so I'm happy with that. I'll take that.
Yeah, win-win. Charlie in the chat says, hi, how are you both? Well, I mean, you'll know how your dad is because you've kind of seen him. But yeah, I'm doing very well, Charlie. Thank you very much for asking. King Pigbetter saying hello to Dan and Charlie. Charlie straight away admonishing you for your bad language. And she says hello.
Sorry, Charlie.
Mama Powell says hello, Bubba. Hello, Mother. I feel like it's an episode of Dear Deirdre here, where we were just reading the
Deirdre.
Yeah, well, so a writing for a newspaper. Leave it at that.
But isn't Dear Deirdre a problem page or problem column in like one of the newspapers?
Listen, the problem was I said Dear Deirdre. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Smash hits then. Smash hits.
Bloody hell, smash hits. That's going back, isn't it?
It is. I'm old, you see. Dan Griffin says, poor Mrs. Maggs has been holding her breath for 2 years. That's the problem. She doesn't fucking hold her breath. So when she contracts a disease, it's passed on to me. It's ridiculous. Lovely Facebook user coming in, just popping in to say hello. Well, we massively appreciate that.
Let us know who you are. Remember, if you're using the Facebook group SJP World Media to watch the video and you wish to comment on the live show, you need to tell us who you are, because otherwise it comes up as Facebook user and we don't know who you are.
Exactly. King Pigs Banners says we need a new segment with an update on Mags's dreadlocks. Well, hold off till we've got past the comments, because I have to take my headphones off and then my hat, and I will show you how my dreadlocks are looking. Sharon is laughing at us, certainly not with us. King Pig Banner says we were good-looking fellas. Yeah, honestly, that may be some of your best work, making these two ugly fuckers look good. Only called us ball bags because you're a pair of nuts. I mean, I'd rather be called ball bags than half the stuff that Mrs. Max calls me, so I will definitely take it, Dan. And Charlie says, I haven't seen him in much. I've been in my room watching something. Well, you've not missed out on anything. He's just been trying and failing to prepare.
There we go.
And that's the chat caught up with. So now,
if you could get that translated into Latin, trying and failing to prepare, that would be like the emblem if we had a football team, wouldn't it?
Simonus Paulus, I think it's the
right. Okay.
Right. So let's give a look at the dreadlocks.
Beautiful. Look at this.
So I still give off the look of a Simpsons character.
Yes.
But I was just explaining to Sar before we come on, because I've got straight, like, Caucasian hair, it doesn't knit together as well as like Afro-Caribbean or black hair. So you have to maintain it a lot more than you would. And it's maintained by essentially getting a crochet hook from knitting and inserting it into the dreadlock, and then kind of like making knots inside it. So that's what you basically imagine stabbing into your dreadlock and pulling the hair through. But because I'm married to a sadist, she got this one, which is the same thing, but 3 hooks. And what happens is
brutal.
It is brutal. Now, in some dreadlocks, it's absolutely fine. You can't feel it going in and out, because if you imagine it's like this, but I don't even want to dare do it because I'll end up with it trapped. But you get a dreadlock and you twist the dreadlock, and then you have to like jab that in so it pulls hair in and out and creates a knot. Some of my dreadlocks are absolutely fine, and you barely feel anything. But some honestly feel like I've been injected directly into the brain. It makes me think I'm having a lobotomy, and I feel I feel like that episode of Simpsons when Homer pushes a crayon up his nose to make himself stupider again. It's horrific. So yeah, that's what I have to go through to have a peaceful laugh from a wife who watched the Bob Marley movie one time.
Don't you isn't there something to do with soap as well? Don't you like rub soap in it to make it go manky together?
No, that's back in the olden days. So what you use you don't use it all the time because it would make your hair really greasy. But there's something called conditioning gel, and you basically rub a little bit of it on your fingers and then rub it at the base of your dreadlocks, and that helps. It's kind of like almost a glue, and it basically helps the hair stick together. But there's a lot of myths about dreadlocks, like you can't wash dreadlocks. You absolutely can wash dreadlocks. You just have to make sure you dry them properly. You can't. The only problem you get is you get a lot of dry scalp, so you have to use. You have to use. It's like a repair cream. It's coconut and mango and lime, and you have to rub it into like your roots. But other than that, it's absolutely fab.
So you smell fantastic right now. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, my hair does. Me particularly, I smell like a sweaty wrestling fan.
Oh, speaking of smells, do you see what I got here, Max? This is cool. All right.
Deodorant.
Yeah, it's this thing I've discovered. I no longer smell of arse. No. It's you know, like when your lips get all dry and chapped and whatever, and you get like a chapstick or a lip balm or whatever. Look at this. It's a Wamba flavored chapstick. Look at that.
Wow.
It is the business, mate. It's see that now.
Look at you.
It tastes like Wamba. Nom nom nom. It doesn't taste like Wamba. That's wrong. No.
How many of them have you gone through since discovering it? About 4 or 5. Like.
Well, I've eaten one. Oh. Magsy, shall we crack on with what we normally do first?
We shall. So for me, I've changed it up this week. Instead of going for a Hall of Fame, a Hall of Lame, I'm going for a
that chicken gets me
so good. I'm going for a Hall of Fame this time, and I was kind of like contemplating whether it was a Hall of Fame or whether it was a Hall of Lame. And I think on the balance, I would say that this is a Hall of Fame, mainly because I've got another another version of this for next week, which almost certainly is a Hall of Lame. So one thing that the WWE definitely should get more praise for is the stuff that they and the wrestlers do for charity. They are one of the biggest. Their wrestlers are some of the biggest people to do the Make-A-Wish. I think John Cena holds the record. Hulk Hogan wasn't too far behind. But one thing that they do every single year is they do the tribute to the troops, which is basically going over and entertaining the US soldiers who are stationed abroad, can't come home at Christmas. They go over and do a show for them. But that's not the only thing that they do for the troops. Very often when a wrestler will go on a TV game show, the charity that they are working for are usually based around something to do with the troops or with veterans. And I wanted to go over a really good example of that. So a few years ago, there was a TV show called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Okay. And they did a whole week of shows where certain WWE superstars were the guest, and one of those episodes was The Big Show. Now, on this show, the basic rules are that you get asked 10 questions, 2 from each grade, so 2 from grade 1 all the way up to grade 5. The higher the grade, the more money that you can put in your pot. And if you can get all the questions correct and then answer the bonus question, which multiplies your winnings by 10, you could potentially leave with a check for $250,000, which goes towards whichever charity you work for. And Big Show, as I said, was going towards helping American troops, so he picked the USO. So let's just go through this show and see how well the Big Show did. And as a kind of interactive section, Sa is going to answer the questions before I read out what Big Show says.
Okay.
So
I feel a bit stitched up by this, by the way.
I mean, are you smarter than a Big Show? That's the point.
Okay.
So on this show, you have the guest, obviously, but they have 3 classmates who are kids aged around between about 7 and 10, and they kind of help during the game. So firstly, Big Show picks a girl called Taylor to be his first partner, and Big Show, as brave as he is, they start from the top and work their way down instead of taking the easy road and then working their way up.
That's brave.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really have a lot of option because the partner generally picked the question. So Taylor picks 5th grade US history.
US history.
US history.
Okay.
So they were asked who was the 2nd vice president of the United States. Now, Taylor, who I believe was 10, locks her answer down instantly. Big Show, on question 1, already needed to use one of his cheats. So you have 3 cheats. You have peak. I think the other one is your partner picks you take your partner's answer. I think that's called save. But you have 3 lifelines, and he instantly has to use one he has a look at Taylor's answer, and he agrees with that. Sa, what would your answer be?
I would have a look at Taylor's answer.
Right. I will give you a hint because obviously you're not American. This person is named in a very funny promo between The Rock and Booker T.
No, doesn't help.
Well, the answer was Thomas Jefferson.
Okay, right.
Big Show took her answer, and straight away he's scraped by question 1. Got himself $5,000 in his pot. Now he's getting a bit.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So now he's getting a bit of a Billy Big Bollocks. Thinks he's clever, and he goes for 5th grade measurements. Question is, how many micrometers are in 1 centimeter? So
I don't even know what a micrometer is.
Well, it's okay. You're clearly on the level of a Big Show up to now. Taylor straight away on the buzzer locks her answer in, but Big Show is carrying on thinking he's a clever cunt. He blurts out his answer straight away. 10 micrometers in a centimeter, he says.
Well, that's millimeters, isn't it?
Big Show is not a clever cunt. In fact, he's a fucking stupid cunt because the answer is, sir,
100.
10,000.
Okay.
And if Taylor gets this wrong, they'll lose the money that they've earned already, and they'll have to start again from 0. She answers 7 because she's a 10-year-old kid and not a 37-year-old 7'2" bloke. So they've lost all the money, starting back from 0. Question 3, 4th grade life sciences. Question is, tropical rainforests have 4 basic layers of trees. Which of these are not a layer of a tropical rainforest? And the answers are canopy, nimbus, or understory. Taylor is in straight away, locking her answer down. But Big Show is confident with his answer. So, Sa, what do you think Big Show said? Oh, in fact, no, what do you think is the answer?
I think understory is not one.
Well, you are dumber than a Big Show because he gets it right with Nimbus. $3.5
Fucking
grand
hell.
in the pot. Time to switch partners, and he switches to a little boy called Kamane, who then picks 4th grade anatomy. So in the human eye, what 5-layered membrane is located in front of the iris? I mean, these kids must be intellectual geniuses because Kamani straight away locks down an answer. But does Big Show need his help? No, he does not. Big Show gets the answer correct. Sir, what did Big Show say?
Cornea.
Cornea. Ding, ding, ding. Correct. 7 grand in. Kamani then wants science question next. So the Big Slow picks 3rd grade physical science. And the question is, if an object has negative buoyancy, it will float in water. Is this true or false?
That must be false because buoyancy means it. Yeah.
Correct. Big Show gets it right. Kamani gets it right. 3 in a row. So they've got 9,500 in the bank now. Kamani, he likes the sciences, as he said in the previous question. So Big Show then goes for 3rd grade animal science. And the question is, in terms of average size, what species is the largest living member of the lizard family? Shaw gets the right answer, so he's putting the pressure on you, sir.
A lizard family. My word. I don't even know that many lizards, man.
The correct answer is a Komodo dragon.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
$12,000 now in the pot.
Because it's fucking massive, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's the biggest one. That's the whole point. So because he didn't need any help from Kamane, Big Show switches to his final partner, a young lad called Kevin. Kevin picks 2nd grade spelling. And the question is, how many vowels are in the following phrase? Cobra, smash, slam.
Cobra, mash, slam.
Smash.
Smash. Cobra, smash, slam.
Yeah. How many vowels? If you have to write it down, you're a fucking idiot.
4.
Big Show got it right straight away, and the answer was 4. Correct.
Yeah.
So that's worth a grand. Big Show then picks 2nd grade grammar. And the question is, when paired with a helping verb like have or has, the word go will turn into what word in the past tense?
Gone.
The answer is gone. Big Show nailed that as well. So Big Show is now only on the 1st grade questions, the questions that you could ask an absolute clown and they should get it right. Good luck with this. They go with 1st grade vocabulary. $500 for the question, and it is true or false. A male whale is called a bull.
False.
Big Show is very, very confident with this answer, and he goes with true. And so does Kevin, the kid. So Big Show gets $500 in his bank. This last question now of the original 10, and if he gets this, Big Show's at $15,000 for charity, and it's 1st grade world geography. I don't know why I'm going to say geography. So the question is, if Kevin plans on visiting the 3 tallest mountains in the world, what continent will he be visiting?
I would guess Asia.
Correct. And Shaw didn't need Kevin whatsoever at all in any of those questions, and he gets it right. Kevin gets sent back to the classroom, and Shaw has to face the multiplier question alone. And the subject is 5th grade social studies. Now, a glance of fear comes over Big Show's eyes, knowing that he's on his own with this, and he does the sensible thing and takes the money saying that it's too much for him to be able to risk, and he's not arrogant enough to gamble it all, and it can do a lot of good for all the US veterans. So with that, Big Show's last words on the show, he has to concede that he, a WWE superstar and the largest athlete in the world, is not smarter than a fifth grader. And with that, that's my entry this week for the Hall of Fame, WWE, and the amount of work they do for charity.
Yeah, okay. Brilliant show. It is fantastic how much money they raise. I mean, I didn't enjoy being made to look fucking stupid. But no, the stuff they do is fantastic. And it's been something they've done for so many years as well, as isn't it? You look at when John Cena was in his prime. That's a long time ago now. That's many years ago. And Hogan before that. It's spectacular what they do, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I mean, Bret Hart as well. Let's mention Bret Hart, seeing as he's the topic of our wrestling today. Bret Hart's done a lot of charity work and Make-A-Wish and all that as well when he was in the WWF. So,
and it's good that they use the popularity of their superstars to do good things for the community. So yeah, I mean, we can rag on WWE for a lot, and it would be absolutely deserved, but give them their props when it comes to charity work. There's very few companies who do as much as WWE do.
Yeah, exactly. My entrant into the Hall of Lame this week is somebody who I think when you mention them gets the right amount of praise, because everyone sings their praises and says how important they are to various moments and memories. But I think as well, what was that?
That's a pint bottle of orange.
No, what was that noise? Did you just punch your microphone?
No, I clipped the top of the bottle on my microphone.
Okay. It's somebody that maybe doesn't always spring to mind when these moments happen, but they are hugely, hugely influential in professional wrestling, especially in the early days and so on. I would like to draw everyone's attention to how music plays a part in professional wrestling, specifically entrance music, and sing the praises of Jim Johnston, who I think should be in the WWE Hall of Fame because of his contributions to that company for many, many, many years, with so many iconic entrance themes and iconic pieces of music that the wrestlers use. And you think about these great moments where your favorite wrestler wins a title or wins a match or has a fantastic moment, and their music is playing whilst they celebrate. As a kid, you know, buying the CDs that had all the entrance themes on them and so on. And also the great returns as well. Moments in the Royal Rumble where people come out to their music and instantly you recognize who they are from their music first. And, returns in the middle. Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania 8. Yeah, okay, it ended and it was shit in the end, but that moment will live on with me forever because I didn't expect the Warrior to turn up. And when his music hit, I instantly knew who it was the Warrior's music and so on. So quite a short one this week, which is good because Magsy went on for fucking ages.
Me?
My entrance into the Chain Wrestling Live Hall of Fame this week is quite simply Jim Johnston. And again, I don't think I need to say much more to that because when you bring the guy up, everyone tends to say, yes, of course. Why isn't he praised more often? And why isn't he in the proper Hall of Fame, Magsy?
Because when he was let go, he claimed that he owned the rights to a lot of the music. And I think he was negotiating a better deal with WWE, and that Vince wasn't willing to pay. I think that's why they switched to that CFO dollar sign group, so WWE could retain ownership of the music. Yeah, it's shitty what they did with him, but yeah, I agree with you. The guy should be in the Hall of Fame. He kind of like in a similar vein to Jim Ross. He's the soundtrack to our wrestling journey. I mean, all the big superstar music was created by him. It's amazing. Yeah, so I agree with you. Brilliant show.
Thank you very much. Shall we scan through the chat very quickly before we get on with this week's non-wrestling topic?
We shall. I have to find where we were because the CWF were doing brilliant in trying to answer all of the questions. We'll start with James. He says early 2000s new metal vibes from Magsland. Yeah, I'm auditioning to be in the remake of Korn as the lead singer. Dan says to King Pigs Brothers that would go on the chain wrestling emblem if it was a football club. That's trying and failing to prepare is conator et manus parare in Latin.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like you are failing to prepare.
Mm. Yeah, it works. It works.
Cam Griffin in the chat. Hello, Cam. How are you, sir? Connor says, hi, hello, Mags and Sir. I feel sorry when you get to my NWT. I have enough to rival Steve-O. Hey, if you want to rival Steve-O, you're a braver man than I, but bring it on. Dan answers the cloud one, the canopy one, which you obviously did not.
I saw that too late.
The cloud. You were looking to cheat already.
No.
Dan already answers, gets the Connie one right. King Big Badder says, isn't it the bus that Bang Bang Andy normally catches? Dan Griffin says, false. Godzilla, not real because he's not real or living. He says 4. Then James says Lee Sharp. Brilliant in between his reference there. Then Dan says a Sarkos.
Oh, that's what it. I saw that comment come up and I was like, "What is he on about?" But of course,
when they're around the quiz machine.
Yeah,
Dan says,
that's great shite, James.
Is Sark frozen or is he confused? Cam, isn't Sai always confused? Well, yes, he is. And this is a brilliant comment. Dan, I thought that Sai had a show one every week. He does. Do you know why? Because he thinks them up in the 5 or 6 minutes that we're together in the backstage area before we press recording. He wings it. I'll tell you now, he wings it. He says he's got notes, but what he's actually got is a crayon drawing of a house that he's been painting.
I think there's undue pressure on me to put forward a Hall of Fame or Fame every week, considering how much more I've got to do to the rest of the show. I think there's undue pressure on me to contribute.
I don't believe that that's true.
Okay.
But also,
yeah.
Dan was making a dick joke.
Yes, I got that.
I didn't want to embarrass him more than need be, Dan.
It's cold in Gloucester, okay? Right. Shall we get on with this week's non-wrestling topic, Magsy?
We shall.
NWT time. Oh! No wrestling talk here. It's the non-wrestling topic.
Lovely.
Nice. Lovely. Nice.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
So then, we have returned after lots of messing about, going to Thursdays, then not actually doing a show on a Thursday and coming back to Mondays and so on and so forth. But what do you guys think are some great returns, some bad returns, some embarrassing returns, some not needed returns in music, sport, TV, anything at all? And they have not disappointed, have they, Magsy? The old CWF, they never do.
I mean, we could give them any topic and they would come out all guns blazing. I love the CWF for that.
Yeah, and me. We
no,
begin.
I love the CWF, not you.
Yeah,
specifically not you.
Why? Just shush, please. Let me just do this. Stop distracting me. We begin with Connor Knows Soccer at Connor Knows Footy on Twitter. He says, gotta be LeBron James returned to Cleveland in 2016. The team he was drafted by nearly 21 years ago after leaving in 2006 as a free agent to the Miami Heat and going on to win 4 NBA championships from 2006 to 2015. LeBron came back to Clemens in his scored Dion back. He beat the, I don't know what that means. I
think he'd had a stroke at that time.
Okay.
But he did well. He did right good, I think he means.
Yeah, he did. It's
like netball, it's netball, isn't it? It's basically netball. Yeah.
Yeah, it's netball, but you're allowed to move a bit more. So if anything, it's easier. It's easier than netball.
Yeah. I don't think it's a sport, but there we go.
No. Hang on. Golden State Warriors, led by in prime Klay Thompson and Steve Curry. The series won all 7 games and led to a Cleveland victory, breaking the nearly 65-year championship drought for the city. Now that's impressive. If they've not won something for 65 years.
Yeah, but that beginning part of that just feels like words. It don't. To me, it doesn't make a lick of sense. I mean, I recognise Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. I'm assuming that's another person. Don't know that. 7 games, is that the playoff things? I couldn't care less. I
think we should probably try a little bit harder with American
sports. Yay, sports.
Oh, for goodness. Okay. Connor continues. Can't forget the most recent one in the 2023 MLS Eastern Conference Final. The Columbus Crew and FC Cincinnati. Cincy quickly score 2 first-half goals to go 2-0 up at halftime. And in the 73rd minute, Cincy had a goal ruled offside, which would have sealed it. Around the 78th minute, Mark Aoun, I think that might be, goal for Cincy cut their lead down to half.
No, you're a clown. At the 78th minute mark, an own goal.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. Okay, a own goal for Cincy cut their lead down in half, and in the dying moments of the game, Diego Rossi creates some Uruguayan magic and levels the match at the death, sending it to extra time. And with 3 minutes left in the first extra time, Superman Christian Ramirez, formerly of Aberdeen, comes off the bench and scores a beauty of a game winner, and that would be enough to send Columbus to MLS Cup, which they won.
That's cool. It's brilliant, and it's a really good fairy tale story. But where was the return or the remake or the reboot in that? Did Christian Ramirez return from somewhere, or Diego Rossi? You dickhead. You should. Anyone who goes to Aberdeen would never leave that wonderful place.
Are you sure Neil Warnock did?
Yeah, I mean, Neil Warnock. That's the person you're pinning your hat on.
It's
Neil
the
Warnock.
Person's mind that jumped. Yeah. Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. He says, "I'm sure you've asked this before." All right.
Yeah,
what the fuck
we
are
have.
you? The podcast. What are you? The podcast?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He is really. He is really.
This shit's difficult. 145 episodes. We would come up with something. This is fucking hard work. God. Anyway. The greatest return of all... Yeah, cheers, Rob. The greatest return of all time has to be Patrick Duffy, Bobby Ewing returning on Dallas. Beloved character returns. Lots of the awful season 9 gets reconned. Love it or loathe it, it's still one of the most iconic moments in TV history. Now, yes, it's iconic, it's incredible, it's memorable, and he's right, like it or loathe it. Now, I never watched Dallas, but I do kind of think, is that not just bollocks? Because we've discussed this before.
We have. It was bollocks.
Yeah, what happens in like the whole of the previous season if somebody's died or they got to try and get that?
It's all wiped out. It's like that whole 24 episodes just never happened, and you, as a viewer, were a dickhead for watching it. So we're going back to the start of the year, and there's no you can do about it, really. So
Okay. At Yalmorright on Twitter. His is a picture, and it's of
it needs no explanation. It's
but it does, because this comes out as an audio version as well, knobhead. So it needs
some explanation.
It needs an explanation. I can't just say, and he sent in a picture and then leave people hanging, can I? It's old Jelly Belly himself, Harold from Neighbours. And look at his lovely chubby little face. He's all happy there, isn't he? Because he fell down some rocks, didn't he, or something, and forgot who he was.
Washed away, and did he get trapped in a fishing net or something like that?
Trapped in a fishing net?
I remember the scene of that being rocks, and then there was a fishing net on the rocks, and you could see Harold's leg. So he was assumed to be dead and lost at sea. Then he returned, but couldn't remember who he was. And then Shazam got his memory back when I think it's when he saw Madge. He got his memory back.
I can remember that because he was in a shop and somebody went and got Madge to come into the shop.
And he was like, I have no fucking idea who you are, you crazy old bag.
Yeah, deep down he's thinking, I've escaped you once, love.
Yeah.
I've got a good thing going here.
Don't make me have to kill myself again.
Have you seen my new missus? Oh, leave me alone, Madge.
But yeah, it is a great comeback, and it is perfectly shown by James there.
It is indeed. Speaking of neighbours and the other side of the world, we have our resident from Ramsey Street, Chris Mangor, at Mangor_Chris, and he says, Dirty Den's return to EastEnders was a big deal, but a disappointment in his opinion. I can remember Dirty Den dying. I was really, really little. I can remember him getting shot.
When he got shot and fell in the canal.
Yeah, that little thing came out the flowers, didn't it? And he was gone. But I can remember him coming back and thinking, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. But it was shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think the best storyline that came out of that was he got to play hard the sausage with Zoe Slater.
Zoe Slater. Which one was that? Oh, she's the youngest one.
Yeah. Kat's sister/daughter.
Oh, yeah. She was in Doctor Who.
Yeah. Well, she was trying to get pregnant by Den Jr. And couldn't. So Dirty Den, living up to his name, said, I'll get you pregnant and he'll never know about it. So he got to do a bit of the no pants dance with her before he eventually was killed off in the pub by his missus.
They got buried under the cellar, didn't he?
Did he? I don't remember that bit.
Was that him? Sharon in the chat, let us know, or any other EastEnders. Not that Sharon's an EastEnders fan, she just knows stuff. I'm fairly certain Den got buried underneath the cellar. Or was that the other guy who was in the program with the Welsh people? What's that called?
The program with the Welsh people?
Yeah.
Crossroads?
No, is Crossroads Welsh?
I don't know.
Was it? Why'd you say Crossroads then?
It was the first thing that comes to my mind. I can't think of one Welsh program.
Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, right, yeah. Who was buried in the cellar in that?
No. We're getting ourselves all muddled up here now, aren't we? Listen, there was a bloke who was in Gavin and Stacey. Right. He was Gavin's dad. He was in EastEnders, and he was a nasty piece of work. Yeah, and he got buried under. Did he get buried under the pub?
He might have done. I have no idea.
He got walloped by the Queen Vic statue, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's how Den got killed as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
Are we getting our bad guys in EastEnders muddled up here?
No, I remember that one vividly because his wife was Tracy Ann Oberman. She ended up being in Doctor Who as well.
Right, yeah.
She walloped him with the Queen Vic bust, and let him die on the floor of the pub.
Right. So then, who got buried under the Vic?
It could be Archer. You might be right because he was a scoundrel as well, weren't he?
So where did Den go?
Like, probably back in Canal, knowing him.
Yeah,
he went off to have a wank on live cam, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There we go. That's what happened. I remember. Fucking hell. He was
that genuinely. Well. It genuinely happened. That
I know it did. I know that wasn't a particularly dark Christmas episode of EastEnders where he's just sat in the... I know that was real life. Can you imagine it now? Dirty Den entering his credit card details on his laptop and dun 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 dun.
Wow!
I definitely
stood at half mast.
I'm definitely not tuning in at New Year's Eve. Anyway,
thanks for that, Chris Mangle.
Yeah, brilliant. Crossroads, you bellend. At Pigs Bladders on Twitter, King's Pigs Bladders himself, he says, firstly, disappointed I didn't get included in the original Get Involved tweet.
For all he does for the show as well.
I got no idea how that happened, and I hugely, hugely apologise.
It's because he took you off the list because you made me look prettier than him in the.
That's exactly what it was. It was makeup envy. He says the worst TV reboot was when they brought back The Prisoner. Nothing can compare to the original, with Patrick McGowan being chased by huge floating balls and being gassed in phone boxes. What were they thinking? Yeah, a lot of these reboots, like Knight Rider, was shit as well, wasn't it? And
yeah, I always am skeptical of a classic old show getting a reboot because they're going to ruin it with CGI. It's horrible.
Yeah. Pigs Bladders also has a second. He says the best TV show to return after hiatus has to be Doctor Who. As a fan of classic Who, I was always disappointed that it ended the way it did, only to be brought back with a new lease of life, and while staying true to the original, it keeps going to new heights. I 100% agree. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, the episodes of classic Doctor Who that I've watched, I'm not an avid nerdy fan like you all, but the episodes of classic that I've watched, I've enjoyed, but I've enjoyed new Doctor Who way more. It's the Christopher Eccleston, Matt Smith, David Tennant eras they're just more. They're more interesting for me. So I think it's a reboot that has done so much better than the original.
It's very good. It's very good. Pigs Bladders also says worst return. Over the course of 5 years in the 1970s, serial killer Peter Sutcliffe brutally murdered 13 women, injuring at least 7 more across the north of England. This total would have been a lot less if he stopped returning to the north of England to murder women.
It's so dark. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's horrific that I'm actually laughing about it.
Yeah. Oh, my word. Steve-O at Elite FPL _Steve-O on Twitter. He says, well, from my own point of view in wrestling, CM Punk returning to... What are you laughing at now?
The fact that even he knows he's going to go into a rant, so he starts his answer with, well, as if, sit down, get a brew. This is taking a while.
Well, from my own point of view in wrestling, CM Punk returning to in-ring at AEW was up there with the greatest ever. But his return to WWE had me gobsmacked. Lesnar's return in 2012, I really enjoyed as well. So let's cover CM Punk first, Maxie. Punk's return to AEW. I'm a big Punk fan, as everyone knows. Punk's return to AEW was, again, it all went to shit. I understand that. But that night when everyone was chanting CM Punk and they were changing the lights in sync with the chant, and even though he hadn't been announced, it was obvious. My daughter and my wife staying up to the early hours of the morning to watch it with me. Punk's music, I shed a tear. I was, honestly, that night's never, ever going to leave me. Yeah, it ended like shit, but that night was special. Punk returning in WWE, they did that perfectly. Because they even brought up the little logo in the bottom that makes you think the pay-per-view is going off air, and that's that. The commentators have stopped talking, and I guarantee some people would have turned it off. But then his music hits, and that got me, because all the way through the show, I'm thinking, Punk's going to turn up. I know he is. And at the very last second, they had me thinking, oh, okay. Well, that's that then. And then his music hits, and I had that same feeling of, oh my God, Punk's here. Brilliant. So well done by both companies.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I am not a Punk fan. I'm not particularly a Punk hater, but he's just not someone who's really connected with me as a wrestling fan. But when he came back, yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. I suppose the way I would liken that is when The Rock came back recently, and he started like rubbing his arms and showing that he had goose pimples. And when I looked at my arm, I had exactly the same. I had that connection with him, and the fact that he come back, and again, kind of like Punk, it was starting to turn a little bit to shit up until this last week's SmackDown, which, for those who have not watched, is a chef's kiss. Absolutely brilliant promo. But yeah, I can understand why you felt that way about Punk, because I felt that way about The Rock. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Steve-O continues. There's been loads in the bill, but Burnside and Roach returning for one-off stories were brilliant. Even a Bob Cryer and Alec Peters one-off episode was excellent and a pleasant surprise.
Oh, that's good. I mean, Steve-O is the biggest Bill fan in the history of the world. So that must have been awesome for him to see like those old classic characters coming back. So yeah, good for him.
Steve also says, I know Magsy loved the Christmas special released 2 years ago of the Detectorists. I just couldn't get behind it. Did nothing for me at all. For a show that ended in 2017 but comes back as a one-off, just wish they didn't bother.
I mean, yeah, Steve-O's made his thoughts clear on that. I think maybe that's because he'd had such a build-up between the show like ending and then the comeback. He's looking at like a 5-year gap. I didn't watch it at all in the original run, and it was only after seeing it come up. I think it came up on Netflix, and seeing that's what Steve-O's been recommending, the Detectorist, and then watching it all kind of in like one block, and then the Christmas special. I didn't have that gap where I suppose you could hope for more. So perhaps it's that. Perhaps it's not expecting too much of it because I got to watch it all in one run.
Binged it all in one hit, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Steve-O finishes with the David Brent movie. Enough said. Oh yes, American Pie reunion. 10 years after the first, and in my opinion, the best of the 4. I do not count the ones in between, he says.
I don't think I've watched beyond American Pie 3, perhaps. I remember 1 and 2, definitely. I may have watched 3. The rest I just give up on because they milked it. Absolutely milked it.
Yeah, well, fair enough. That's all we have from Twitter this week, Magsy, mate. If as long as I've not missed any. Have you got any that spring to mind?
Oh, I've got plenty. Let me get my list up. So, I have got for video games, I've got a couple. So there's The Last of Us. That's both editions of that have been remastered recently. And whilst they are really good games, like really in-depth story about basically apocalyptic zombies and kind of how this man and kid are able to survive. They only came out, the originals of these only came out a few years ago, and I don't think the remasters add enough to warrant being done. Especially when other games that Sony and their team have put on the back burner for these 2 remasters, they didn't need to happen. So that's one that's definitely unneeded. One that I think surpasses the originals were the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 remakes. Those games are absolutely amazing in the original formats, and then when they were brought back with better graphics, some of the kind of mechanics of Tony Hawk's 2 were put into Tony Hawk's 1. It just made for a better game. But the absolute dog shit worst, and Dan mentions in the chat about The Last of Us remasters were proper money grabbing. This one is money grabbing. It was done specifically to money grab. The 3 GTA 3D original games, so like GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, they got a re-release called the Definitive Editions, and they are a buggy, horrific nightmare of a game. And they haven't even been remastered; they just have been ported from mobile phone versions of the original games. So on a £500 console, you're playing essentially a mobile game, and they are massively, massively bugged. It's horrific, absolutely horrific, and it's a massive cash grab. In terms of movies, I have a real issue with Americanized versions of Japanese and Asian horror films. Things like Pulse, Shutter, The Grudge, and The Ring is probably the biggest one. They kind of, by making the films look better in terms of the CGI, they lose the horror element that the originals put in place. I can't really think of a good like Americanized remake of those kind of films. I would prefer to watch the originals with subtitles than watch the American version because they're just too Hollywood for me. Saying that, there is a remake of I think it's a Hong Kong film that I think surpassed the original. A film called The Departed. It's got Leo DiCaprio in. Matt Damon's in it. It's essentially
Matt Damon.
It's essentially a kind of like a cop film where there's like moles and rats in the police force who are reporting back to the mafia. That's a remake of a film called Infernal Affairs, and it's I think if I'm right, Martin Scorsese, the world famous director for the likes of Goodfellas. That was the only film of his that has won an Oscar for Best Director. So that's absolutely outstanding. And then the last one, the last two are live action remakes of Disney films. So The Lion King and The Jungle Book got made into live action / CGI of the original cartoons, and they are fucking amazing films. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So if you have a couple of hours, bang them on Netflix because they are brilliant. Or Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, bang them on there because they are brilliant.
Oh, interesting. Fair enough. For me, there's, I suppose, TV-wise, Doctor Who has already been discussed. Everyone knows how much I love that. Quantum Leap. Everyone knows how much I love Quantum Leap, and they rebooted this. Well, it's not a reboot. It's a continuation. It's a carry-on of the original, but 30 years later. And it started wobbly, ended the first season quite well, and now season 2 isn't available in the UK, and nobody knows who's going to get it. So that's frustrating. That's frustrating. So that's annoying. But a big one for me, I suppose, would be music. And in the world of hard rock, heavy metal, and so on, especially the bands that I'm into from a certain era and time, members of bands go back and forth and switch around, and people in Rainbow played in Sabbath, and Sabbath in Purple, and Purple in all this sort of stuff. Everyone swapped and changed around and so on. But lead singers to me sometimes are probably the most important aspect of a band, because that's the voice you hear, obviously. Now, I'm a massive Ronnie James Dio fan, as everyone is probably aware. Ronnie James Dio sang for Black Sabbath when Ozzy was fired. Ozzy was fired in 1979 for just being just being Ozzy, really. And Ronnie James Dio came in and sang 2 albums before parting ways with the band himself. Those 2 albums are absolute, just classic slabs of 80s heavy metal. Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell. Those 2 albums are just unbelievable. That I recommend anyone goes, even if you don't like metal, go and listen to these hard rock albums, because the guy's voice is incredible, the music sounds better, the bands seem reinvigorated, absolutely brilliant. Dio left because he fell out with the rest of the band, went on and formed his own band entitled Dio, and all this sort of stuff, did some great solo work in the 80s and so on. In 1992, Dio came back to Black Sabbath for one more album entitled Dehumanizer. Well, I obviously at the time, too young, but older, going through their back catalogue, when I found this out, very excited. Bought the album, very, very average at best, Magsy. Average at best.
I bet you cried.
It was disappointing. It was disappointing. He did return again once more shortly before Dio passed away, and they recorded a good album with him, and I managed to see them live on that tour as well, which is quite good. But yeah, nothing came close to those first 2 albums he did in 80 and I think 81 they were released. Absolutely brilliant.
They set an impossible bar.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Mags, actually. And the last one is the other side of that coin, I suppose. Iron Maiden, favourite band of mine ever since I was a child. Bruce Dickinson was not the original lead singer. Paul Di'Anno sang on the first 2 albums, but Bruce Dickinson was the guy everyone knows, Number of the Beast and all that sort of stuff onwards. Number of the Beast was 82, and he sang on all the albums through the 80s into the 90s. Bruce left, did some solo stuff. Blaze Bayley came in, recorded 2, I think, quite underrated albums that are better than people give them credit for. Just because it's not Bruce, people shit on them, but I think they're quite good. They're not as good as the Bruce stuff, but still, they're better than people give them credit for. Then Bruce came back in 1999. Now, bear in mind, this is the late 90s. It's a wobbly time for heavy metal anyway.
Yeah.
Or traditional metal, shall we say. New metal is alive and well, and traditional metal is seen as old and dated and so on. And it's that thing of Bruce's solo stuff, whereas it was good, it's quite a departure from what Maiden were. Maiden were different with Blaze Bayley singing. What's going to happen here? They then brought in an extra guitarist, so we had 3 guitar players rather than the traditional 2 that Iron Maiden had. And the album they released was Brave New World, and I think it's potentially the greatest Iron Maiden album of all time.
Wow.
Better than their classic era stuff. It is.
You swerved me then. I thought you was going to absolutely shit on it.
No, it's an absolute stormer. Right from the opening of the song The Wicker Man, the guitar riff, and then Bruce starts singing and the pace of it. Absolutely fantastic. And it's one of those moments where that comeback really worked. Really worked.
Yeah,
so yeah, there we go. That's my my inputs this week, mate.
Well, that's great. Ending on a ha.
Yeah, there we are. Shall we scan through the chat before we dive into the unnecessarily large amount of wrestling we have to talk about this week?
Yes, let me scan back. Dan Griffin says he forgot to submit one for this week's NWT because I was pissed. Sorry about that. Cam then says what we were all thinking. What's new there, Dan? And what was new is he was pissed on a Sunday, not a Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, okay. On a school night.
Dan says, Sar can read the same way that Mags knows words. Exactly. Robbie Fowler's return to Liverpool in 2006, 2007 wasn't brilliant. That's a good shout. I think football ones are rarely good. I mean, look at Ronaldo coming back to United. Not a patch on what he were before he left.
No, but he still scored a lot of goals that season.
Oh, look, you had to put a spin on it, didn't you? It was a shit return.
Where I look at it as he scored 27, 28 goals that season, and we were rubbish. So, so where would we be without his? We'd have been relegated.
Cam agrees with that. It says it's a great shout. And then Dan says Bret Hart's return to WWE in 2010 was made shitter by his Lloyds of London policy, meaning he couldn't wrestle on TV. Recently saw him on a footage on a house show and he could still go. Gutted. Yes, but it would have had to pay back those millions and millions of pounds.
Yes, Maxie having a little cough there. The Rona catching up with him again this week.
Yeah, thanks for grassing on me there. Sharon had no idea. Sharon had no idea who you were talking about, but you were thinking of Larry Lamb. Yeah, that's
right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Dan with a brilliant one. Gary Glitter's most recent. I mean, brilliant in the worst terms before I finish that. Gary Glitter's most recent return to society didn't go well for him. Disgusting couldn't go more than 4 weeks without nothing. Was this literally recently?
No, it wasn't recently, was it?
I thought he was like in Cambodia or Vietnam, where nonsense is essentially allowed.
I thought he was banged up somewhere abroad.
It could well be. Dan, if you're still in the chat, fill us in on the whereabouts of your mate Gary Glitter.
Your mate.
Connor says, sorry about the tweets being sent looking like I had a stroke. I tried to tap and cook at the same time. That sounds like it's not a good idea. Maybe don't do that, especially for like splashbacks, things like that. And he says, and the term comeback could mean anything. So I took the topic and bent the rules. And that is in the CWF style. So yeah, we'll let you have that. King Pig's says, still love detectives. Yeah, I do. I think Steve is wrong in every way about that Christmas special. I thought it was a bloody good sign off. Only joking, Steve, or you can hate it as much as you want. Dan says the next return is excited for is X-Men 97 on Disney Plus, continuing the X-Men 90s cartoon that he watched and loved as a child. I think that may well be the best comic book cartoon ever. I love the original X-Men. That and the Fantastic Four. That was brilliant.
I've not seen it.
The cartoons, not the movies. You've never seen them. You've never seen the X-Men cartoon?
I don't think so.
Oof. As we said earlier, Dan thinks the Last of Us remasters were proper money-grabbing shit. Yep, agreed. Tony Hawk's remasters were immense. Yes, they were. And King's Pig Badders agrees as well. Connor says the American Grudge and The Ring are okay. Haven't seen the Japanese versions, but I've seen some pretty fucked up Japanese horror films. Yeah, I don't know what it is about Japanese and Asian horror. They're just so good at, I suppose, that visceral horror rather than like jump scares and things like that. It's genuine fear kind of horror, and it just very rarely does it translate to an Americanized film. Dan says he preferred the American version of The Ring to the Japanese one, but only because both were a bit shit. Fuck you, Dan. King Pigs Banner says Yuan, the Grudge is one of his faves.
Here comes Charlie to come and say hello very quickly whilst Magsy's coughing. Come on. Come say hello.
No.
Wave then.
I did.
There we go. That's Charlie's arm. There we are.
Really?
Thank you for a cup of tea, Charlie.
Dan says he watched the American version of The Grudge and it scared the shit out of him so much when he was 16 that he hasn't watched Yuan just yet. Connor said he forgot to add this to his topic. The movie Many Saints of Newark is a prequel to The Sopranos. Absolutely fantastic movie about young Tony Soprano. Yeah, I think that was a Netflix film.
I don't know. I've not heard of that.
Yeah, I saw an advert for it ages and ages ago, and it was one of those where you say, "Oh, I'm going to watch that. I'm really interested in that," and then I forgot about it. King Pigs Bladders tells Dan that the Japanese version of The Grudge is creepier. Yeah, it really is. It's so much better. Connor has watched season 2 of the Quantum Leap reboot. When it's available in the UK, you'll absolutely love it. Well, what Sarah said to me earlier, Connor, was if you could send him like basically the footnotes of what happens on each episode.
Don't fucking do that.
He said he wants to know what the episodes are about before he gets to watch it. So
don't fucking do that. Don't. Just don't listen to him, Connor. Nobody do that. Nobody give me spoilers.
In fact, send him in next week's answers to the non-wrestling topic. I want you all to do your answers as normal and then one last sentence or mixed in so he can't pick them out. A sentence about how one of the episodes goes.
Don't do that. Just
do that for me.
Nobody do that. Nobody do. Okay, that's it. This is the last episode of Chain Wrestling Live.
So you will throw away the best part of 3 years of recording these just so you don't hear what happens in the reboot of Quantum Leap.
Yes, 100%.
Brilliant. I now know where I stand. King Pig Banners agrees with you. He says he loved Paul, but Bruce was the best.
Yeah.
And Connor says the Dio tribute album, where a bunch of artists came together to do a remake of Rainbow in the Dark, is a fantastic tribute album.
It was more than Rainbow in the Dark. The Dio tribute album after he passed was lots of different people. Each one would do a different track. Rainbow in the Dark was one specific song. It's one of Dio's most famous tracks. He released in '83. It was a fantastic record. And Corey Taylor from Slipknot sang the vocals on the tribute album, and he does a good job, because anyone trying to sing a Dio song, they're very, very brave trying to do that, because that guy's voice is incredible. So he does as well as you can imagine, put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Dan says he went to the Guns N' Roses Not in This Lifetime tour in 2017. First tour that since 1993 that Axl, Slash and Duff performed together, and it was immense.
I was there too.
There we go.
It was very
and
good.
Then he says, let out in February 2023, locked up again in March 2023. I'm sure he means someone. Oh, is that Glitter? So it was let out.
And not Axl Rose or Slash. He's not.
I mean, Axl Rose, it could be anything. Sharon says the X-Men cartoon is amazing. Wolverine and Gambit are everything. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Need to cough again.
Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I might have seen it a long time ago, or might have seen clips of it, but it doesn't ring a bell, to be honest.
Dan says it was Rogue for him. They did her character dirty in the 2000 movie. Yes, they did. Gambit and Wolverine were both immense, though. And Sharon says 100% agree with that, Dan. So that's the chat. All all caught up.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much again, everybody, for messaging into the show, joining us in the live chat to discuss our non-wrestling topic and all that good stuff. We have 3 wrestling matches to cover because Magsy's a prick and he breaks the rules. So we better get on with it, Mags.
That's horrific. As if I'm just no words.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Sorry, I was playing with my spy pen. I got distracted.
You're such a child.
King of the Ring 1993. Hogan is on his way out. We're desperately looking for some new way to go with this company. What are we going to do? I know. Why don't we pick people who are good at fucking wrestling? Well done, Vince. And that's what we do. And we start with Bret the Hitman Hart, formerly world champion the previous year, screwed over by Hogan at WrestleMania 9. And here it's almost like this tournament was given to him as a way to keep him happy because Hogan screwed him out of the rematch and all that kind of Hogan shit. I've seen this pay-per-view probably 1,000,001 times, to the point where when I put it on, I was surprised because Jim Ross is on commentary. I didn't expect that. Well, I should do because I've seen it so many times. However,
have you been watching it with the Spanish subtitles and
No.
you've had Hugo Simonovic and Carlos Cabrera?
No. However, when I pressed play on the first match, which was Bret Hart against Razor Ramon, I could virtually remember what was going to happen before it happened because I played the VHS tape to absolute death. So, Maxie, I thought we'd do what we did last week. We talk about the matches in order, a couple of minutes on each, and then give a rough rating per match. And then our overall rating, I suppose, for the quality of the whole thing.
Yeah, sounds fan-dabby-dozy.
Awesome stuff. So we keep getting told this is the very, very first King of the Ring tournament. This is lies. Because there's been numerous King of the Ring tournaments. One that I think Bret Hart's actually won previously.
Yep. I think the way that Vince tries to get around this is he says it's the first ever King of the Ring extravaganza. Because it's essentially the first pay-per-view around the King of the Ring. But he's also been a bit duplicitous with the truth because there've been multiple. I mean, Hacksaw Jim fucking Duggan is in this tournament, and he was a previous King of the Ring winner.
Mang was a King of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had the King gimmick anyway. Harley
Race had it. Yeah.
Savage won a King of the Ring tournament as well, didn't he?
Yes, he was Macho King.
Yeah. Oh,
So Vince is just a bullshitter. He could join Hogan for the amount of Billy bullshit lies he tells.
If only that was the worst thing he'd done. The opening match for our hero in this pay-per-view that is basically the Bret Hart show, let's be honest about it, is against Razor Ramon. Now, this is the second pay-per-view where Bret has faced Scott Hall in 1993. He wrestled him for the WWF World title at the Royal Rumble. A very, very good match, which we have covered it on this show. Go back and look it up in the archives. This has a 15-minute time limit because it's a quarterfinal. If anything, I think that maybe hinders it a little bit because they don't go very long. Obviously, it's a shorter match, of course. So to me, this isn't quite as good as the Royal Rumble 93 match, but no, I still think this is bloody good.
And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's certainly not as good as the Rumble match, but it's the way that Bret fights 3 totally different kind of matches against 3 totally different kind of opponents and is able to get really good matches out of them. This one feels more of a slower brawler style match. It's as good of a 10-minute match as that you are going to be able to get. It's just there's very little, if any, parts in the match where the guys are out of sync or kind of doing botches. These are just 2 of the best wrestlers at the time doing what they do. I thought it was a great pay-per-view opener.
Yeah, and me. I suppose this is the plus side to certain aspects of having a tournament as well, isn't it? Bret's the guy in 1993. Let's be honest. Hogan is there, and he's still popular, but everyone loves Bret. By this way, you can have Bret in the opener and Bret close the show out. Now, I know they do that at WrestleMania 10, but it's different circumstances. Here in a tournament, you get the guy everyone's there to see, open the show, and close the show out.
Yeah.
I think that's quite whereas we spoke last week about how the booking and advertising of tournaments can be difficult because you can't say what's going to come up in your main event. This is kind of, I suppose, the silver lining to that, Mags, maybe?
Yeah, and I mentioned the kind of like the differences, the almost the dichotomy of these two examples of tournaments on a single night. The WrestleMania 4 one there was too much going on. The matches didn't have time to breathe. It felt very rushed. Where this, I think, with Bret having 3 matches, started with the quarterfinals and a couple of bars thrown in, this made perfect sense. It gave all the matches the ample amount of time they needed to tell a story, and it gave Bret specifically the chance to tell 3 different stories, which for me, it solidified him as arguably the best wrestler in the world at that time. I mean, I know he'd had the world title beforehand, but this feels like his arrival as the big name in WWE or WWF at the time.
I think Bret is probably the only bright, positive point in WWF in 1993. I'll go as far as to say is literally the only good spot in 93. Michaels is still, Michaels, but he's carrying extra weight. He's obviously got his drug problems. He's, he has issues with Jannetty and the Rumble and so on. The Rumble itself is shit. WrestleMania is shit. SummerSlam shit. Survivor Series is shit. It's all shit. This is the best pay-per-view of the year, and it's down to Bret Hart. Bret got a brilliant main event match at Razor Ramon in the Rumble. Bret got a decent enough match out of Yokozuna, the best you can expect at WrestleMania 9 before that Hogan bullshit afterwards. We have this here, which is the Bret show, and he's fantastic. SummerSlam, he wrestles, I think he ends up wrestling Doink and doing some shenanigans with Jerry Lawler and stuff at 93.
Yeah.
Best match on the card. And then at Survivor Series, which is a fucking mess, that Survivor Series card, Bret's working with his brothers, isn't he, against Shawn Michaels and some Knights. And that's the best match of the card as well. Bret's probably the only shining light they've got.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw Perfect in there, I suppose, if they'd have. I think if Perfect was in the Bret spot and he was given the matches and the opportunities that Bret had, I think he could have been close to that. But you are right, Bret was the number one guy. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. I mean, when we covered this kind of era on that 90s wrestling podcast, every single episode Bret was getting MVP because he carried the company in terms of wrestling ability. He was just phenomenal. He made the people who he wrestled against look better. And you're talking about some pretty talented wrestlers. I mean, Razor Ramon is no slouch in the ring. The guy is arguably one of the best wrestlers never to be a world champion. But Bret elevates him in this match. It's just, he's got that innate talent of making every match look amazing. It's scary how good he was.
This match begins then with Bret working on Razor's arm. He keeps going back to the arm as well. And again, I like that. It's that's how wrestling should be. Pick your body part, work on it, as you hear the commentators often say. I like the spot as well where Bret tries to do a hip toss on Razor Ramon. Razor blocks it because he's the bigger man. I mean, he must have 50 pounds on Bret, and then just blocks it because he's bigger and stronger, and just nails him with a lariat. I love that. So simple but so effective. We get the Razor Ramon fall away slam. And all that sort of stuff. There's another cool moment as well where Bret is working on the arm with an arm bar. Razor body slams him, but Bret keeps hold of the arm, rolls
It's
through, and still has it. It's amazing, isn't it? It's bloody brilliant.
It looks so simple,
Yeah.
but it worked perfectly. This was Bret essentially facing someone who, like I said, he was bigger than him, he was taller than him, he had the weight advantage, and Bret was using all of his wrestling wiles and his technique to hinder Razor Ramon, and it's such good work. It's just gorgeous.
Razor takes control with a poke to the eye, which again, very Ric Flair, very standard heel move,
Heelish,
but it works, doesn't it? It's just so simple. Bret ends up running his shoulder into the post, which is something that it affects him for a long period and goes on into the other matches on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We get a pretty cool running power slam from Razor, Bulldog style or Braun Strowman style, I suppose. That looked quite cool. Before we then get the Bret Hart greatest hits, I suppose, the backbreaker, the leg sweep, the middle rope elbow, and so on, which doesn't matter how many times you see it. And it is, yes, okay, repetitive, and people criticize Bret in the same way they criticize Ric Flair for having a set moves in a match and so on. But if you didn't see those, it would be weird for me.
Yeah, it would. But
the
thing that Bret does in these matches is he changes up the finishes as well. I mean, those moves would ordinarily lead to a sharpshooter.
Yes,
but Bret has to be wily in these matches and take every advantage that he can, because he's going long in these matches. So they don't follow. I don't feel that they follow a typical Bret formula because of the way he has to scratch and claw for the victories. I think they are awesome matches. They really are.
Bret ends up going into the corner again before Razor tries a Razor's Edge. Bret slips out of it and turns into a backslide, which I thought was fantastic.
So well done.
Really good.
So
really
well
good.
done. Yeah.
This then gets turned into a small package for a really close 2 count. The crowd all think it's 3. It's very, very close. Before Razor attempts a belly to back suplex off the middle rope, Bret turns in midair, lands on his opponent, and gets the win. Quite an inventive finish. Quite enjoyed that.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great opener. As far as pay-per-view openers go, you'd be hard pressed to find a better one.
Yeah. So
out of 10, Maxie?
Yeah, it was real. This was really good. Classic, but also in a lot of aspects, inventive wrestling. The keeping hold of the arm with the power slam, the escape from the Razor's Edge into the backslide. I thought that was so simple but yet effective, and the finish absolutely brilliant. I think that this would have ordinarily been a 10 if it wasn't for the next match. So this is getting a 9.
Okay. I've got 8. I've got 8 for this one. I don't tend to have the length of a match being too much of an influence on my score, but this one is quite short, which is why it's probably not a 9 for me. It's an 8. Okay. But I still really enjoyed it. I'd love to have seen more, put it that way. So
definitely.
Yeah. Our next match that features Bret is the semi-final. He is taking on Mr. Perfect. We get a face-to-face promo with Mean Gene, which is a little bit wobbly, shall we say. Whereas as brilliant as Bret was in the ring, sometimes in promos, he wouldn't quite... He couldn't live up to the wrestling ability of his promo side of things, maybe, on occasions, which is a bit of a shame. But then we get the whole my dad could beat your dad up stuff between Bret and Mr. Perfect. I thought that was a bit silly, to be honest.
The one takeaway I got from this was how much of a wanker was Gene Okerlund?
Right.
The shit-stirring prick. Because he knew exactly what Bret Hart had said. He said that he wanted to wrestle Mr. Perfect because it would have been the better wrestling match. And because of Perfect's endurance, he'd get a better match. But old shit-stirring fucking baldy locks, Gene Okerlund, you could tell he's one of Hogan's buddies, can't you? Because he loves stirring the fucking pot. he basically gets two faces to battle each other and start doing their "my dad can beat your dad up" bullshit. Yeah, I usually love Gene Oakland, but in this moment, he's a prick.
Yes, indeed. He's already thinking about that WCW money, though, mate, isn't he? He's already on his way, isn't he?
Shithead.
What a bastard. The match begins with Bret Hart utilizing some really, really crisp, real snap to these headlock takedowns, takeovers. Absolutely brilliant stuff by Bret. A crucifix as well. I don't think we see enough crucifixes in pro wrestling anymore, Magsy. I love that move.
It's a move that's kind of like fell by the wayside. Because I suppose if you're attempting a crucifix, you might as well do a Canadian destroyer nowadays.
Fuck off.
That's not my view. That's the view of the wrestlers. Why do a crucifix when you can do a code red?
Well, yeah, and then kick out at 2 and fucking ruin it forever. Anyway, let's move on. Don't start me off. The pacing of this, to me, is fantastic. It goes, 17, 18 minutes? Something like that,
I think about 18 minutes,
yeah. And they speed up when they need to. When the crowd seem to be losing interest a little bit, they speed up. And then they slow it back down again and go back to the mat. And for the first third of the match, maybe half, I don't know, we've got babyface versus babyface here. And they're wrestling that way. And it's fantastic. But then halfway through the contest, Perfect starts to wrestle more like a heel, which allows Bret to lean into the babyface tendencies he has, knowing he's going to go on and win the match and so on. Yeah. And I just think the psychology in this story that these two tell in these 18 minutes is just absolutely fucking incredible. Bret going for the sharpshooter, can't quite get it on. Perfect starts working the shoulder and then the leg as well, because Bret gets a knot to the leg. Yeah. And then, we get the old Bret Hart limp, which I speak about quite often on the show. And of course, Bret's hurt his hand and his fingers. So Perfect goes and works the hand and stamps on the hand and he bends his fingers back at one point to get out of it. Is it a sharpshooter attempt he uses that for, Mags?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
We also get the really incredible spot of Bret Hart crashing off the ring apron to the floor, but via the crowd barrier and a load of cables and so on. That looked brutal.
Yeah, I think we've spoke before about wrestlers who have career making opponents. I mean, obviously we've had like Austin and McMahon and Austin and The Rock. I think Bret's best matches are with Mr. Perfect. I think these two just have so much chemistry. I mean, you could argue that maybe Shawn Michaels and Bret bring out the best of each other in terms of wrestling. I
probably would argue that, yeah.
But of all the matches that I've seen with Bret and Perfect, that you cannot find a botch, you cannot find an error. They both are able to read each other really well. And like you said, they start off as face versus face, but the way that they both kind of meld into the character that the match and the story are trying to tell. I think the chemistry that these two have are absolutely it's just up there with the best. And the fact that after, I mean, I'm jumping ahead, but after the finish, you can see that Perfect is absolutely pissed off. But the way he gets back in the ring and you think that there's going to be a shouting match, and there's that show of kind of respect between the two and Perfect.
Begrudgingly, in a way.
Yeah. And Perfect essentially saying to Bret, go on and finish this tournament, win the whole thing. You betted me again. That big, like I said, begrudging respect just for me puts a pin in how good these two guys were at wrestling. These could wrestle every day for a month, and the matches would all be classics and would all be different. And I think that's the sign of two amazing wrestlers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't want to dive too much into this match, because what I'd like to do is actually implore anybody who's not watched this for a while or never seen it before to go and watch this match, Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect, King of the Ring 1993. It's well worth it. Obviously, Bret wins. He counters a inside cradle by just shifting his weight to roll perfect shoulders onto the mat and get the 3 count with his own inside cradle. Fantastic, because he's won a wrestling match with wrestling. Love it. Absolutely fantastic. I've got 2 things to very quickly say, Mags. First of all, I'm jumping the gun. I'm going to go first. This is a 10 for me. This is as good as it gets.
You're right.
Secondly, I'd love somebody to correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be forgetting something. But I think, now bearing in mind, I love the stuff of Nick Botwinkle in the AWA that Kurt Hennig did. Absolutely fantastic old school wrestling. I love the SummerSlam 91 match. I love the match that Hennig had with Ric Flair in January of 93 on Monday Night Raw. Fantastic storytelling there. I think this is the best match of Mr. Perfect's career. I think this is better than SummerSlam. It's better than anything he does in WCW. It's better than the AWA stuff from Nick Botwinkle. I think this is the best match Mr. Perfect had. Can anyone think of an alternative?
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't. I mean, it's bold saying that this was better than the SummerSlam 1991 match. I think it's basically 1A and 1B with those 2 matches, I think. But as a 10, I mean, how can you give it anything less than a 10? It was wrestling perfection, genuine wrestling perfection. I would give it higher than 10 if that were possible, but definitely a 10. Yeah.
Don't start giving things higher than 10, because
I'm not going to break the rules. I will. It's a 10. I mean, I would give it infinite. I think this is arguably one of the greatest matches of all of the times. It's perfect. It was perfect.
It's fantastic, isn't it? That takes us then to the final. And this is Bam Bam Bigelow versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Bam Bam has had a bye in the semi-finals, so he's had a chance to rest, which all heels should have in tournaments, because it just works.
I think Jim Ross says that Bam Bam has only wrestled 6 minutes, where Bret has wrestled 36, which is a bit of a Billy bullshit, because it's more like 28. But yeah, I agree with you. The heels, if anyone should get bars in tournaments, it should definitely be the heels, because you're telling that underdog story. What I did like, and it's something that you mentioned earlier, is Bret is carrying all of the injuries that he has suffered in the previous matches. Now, a lot of wrestlers, they forget the injuries that they've had in the match. You'll see them selling for a little while, and then all of a sudden they're absolutely fine. I mean, I've even seen wrestlers who've been injured on one leg and they're selling the other leg, which is absolutely blows my mind. But Bret sells every injury that he's suffered in the previous 2 matches. That is someone who is at the top of the art of wrestling. It's the simplest thing. I mean, you think about it it should be automatic. Yeah, I've been injured in this match, I'll sell it. But nobody does. And Bret, as anally retentive as he was about the wrestling business, he got it. He absolutely got it. And it was just the gas before even getting into the ring has already shown that he's a step above everyone else just by carrying on the selling of those injuries. It's brilliant.
And the story is already there, isn't it? You've already got big guy versus little guy. You've got monster heel versus the hero who's hurt and injured. And you've got the guy in the ring who has barely worked, whereas Bret's been through 2 battles against guys that the fans respect and know are worthy opponents.
Yeah, and it's arguably his biggest test, because he's squeaked through the other 2 matches by the skin of his teeth. If you look at the way the finishes come, and then he's got to face this behemoth of a man who, by all intents and purposes, could literally squash him to the ring and be over and done. So it's just amazing. amazing storytelling.
Yeah, it really is. We see the Bret Hart limp out in full force, though. Not quite the Bret Hart limp as strong as Royal Rumble 94, but it's getting to that level. Bret, we get a lot of stuff on the floor as well in this match, don't we? Which again shows the variety of what they're trying to put together, because there wasn't much on the floor in the first two matches. There are moments, but not much. But there's a lot. Bret sent into the crowd barrier. He's sent into the ring post. There's a press slam over the top to the floor from Bam Bam Bigelow. There's a lot going on, isn't there, from the outside of the ring? And Bam Bam, whereas Mr. Perfect was the wrestling opponent, and Scott Hall was, I suppose, the big heel opponent, Bam Bam's just a brute here, isn't he? Bam Bam's just a brawler, destroying him here.
Yeah, he's like a wrecking ball compared to the two opponents that he's had. And what I really thought was clever and very, very subtle is the way that Bret starts at the beginning trying to get his offense in. He goes for an armbar, which he'd done earlier in the tournament, and Bigelow just has none of it. So he ends up throwing him onto the floor. So Bret knew that plan, that kind of tactic that had worked for him in previous matches wasn't going to work against this. So he had to essentially change his approach up on the fly. And it's just, the guy is just a wrestling genius.
The storytelling, the levels from match to match to match, and what goes from one match 3 hours ago into this match, and then it's just so. The intelligence, the wrestling intelligence, I suppose, is what I'm looking for. It's just fantastic. I hated the Luna Vachon spot, by the way. No, actually, no, I'm wrong. Let me rephrase that. That's misleading of me. I hated the referee's spot with this, because we get a moment where Bam Bam is distracting the referee in the ring. Bret is on the floor, quite near the entranceway, which is on the corner of the ring, isn't it? So you've got quite a big area there. And Luna Vachon tiptoes up the ring with a steel chair, waffles Bret with it, and then runs away. That, no problem with. I don't think the match needed it, but I've got no massive issue with it. It's more peril for the babyface to overcome. So it's storytelling. It works. What I didn't like was Bam Bam then going to the top rope, hitting his finisher, the diving headbutt, pinning Bret, and being announced as the winner of King of the Ring. For another referee to come down and say, no, we're restarting the match, because that makes no sense.
And you're right, it makes absolutely no sense, because it should be the referee's decision is final, and how many matches are booked so the referee misses important things like that, and another referee never comes out. So why should it happen in this one? And I think it also takes a little bit away from Bret Hart, because he's basically being given he's being given some preferential treatment, I suppose. If we play by the typical wrestling match rules, he's lost this match. Yes, by interference, but it sticks most of the time. So I think in the push to be different, they've kind of ruined it a little bit.
Yeah, I dislike the way that you're right, it's nonsense, because it gets the match is continued and so on. But if the referee has seen it, then surely it's just a disqualification and Bret wins anyway. It makes a mockery of their own rules by trying to be too clever. And I think it hurt them. I mean, the match is still great. Don't get me wrong. I still really enjoyed this. But it was hurt, I think, by that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a case of doing something just to be a little bit different, maybe kind of almost look like this swerving the fans, and that Bret wasn't going to win, getting that almost definitive pin. And then old tosspot Earl Hebner, who is a heel, no matter how much you think about it, the way he gets himself involved in matches, and in this case, a match that didn't have anything to do with him. And then we get the Fink as well, almost healing it up by promising or saying that the result was being reversed, meaning Bret wins, and then going, nope, I've been corrected. The match is to restart essentially.
Yeah. We go into a backbreaker submission hold by Bam Bam Bigelow, which I quite enjoyed. That was quite cool. Bam Bam Bigelow then powers out of a sharpshooter. Now, sometimes this can look cheesy and shit, but this looked good because his legs are so thick and he shoved Bret off. He then applies a bear hug, and I'm straight away thinking, oh, shit. But he turns that into a suplex, which looked impressive as well, didn't he? He smashed the crap out of Bret with that. He goes into the corner where Bret ends up striking the post. No, sorry, Bret moves and gets his foot up, doesn't he? Catches Bam Bam, climbs up on his shoulders, and hits the victory roll. Which, again, I love this because he uses the victory roll to win this match. Which then the storytelling's fantastic because he goes to that move again in the opener of WrestleMania 10 with Owen. People will remember that. As a kid, I remember him going for the victory roll on Owen at WrestleMania 10 and thinking back, he's won King of the Ring with this move, and Owen counters it to win. It's just, he's on a different fucking level, mate. It's just unbelievable.
It's those little Easter eggs that make him better than every wrestler that he worked with. I mean, he's won 3 totally different matches against 3 totally different wrestling opponents with 3 totally different wrestling styles. He's beat all of them in different ways, and he didn't win with his finisher.
No, amazing.
Yeah, it's just it sounds so simple, but for him to be able to do all that in one night, it just blows your mind. And especially if you're watching as a fan in 1993, it must have been absolutely jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
And then we get to watch it over and over again on the network, and just get to see those nuances. These are the kind of matches where you could watch them 50 times, and then on that 51st time, you see something that you didn't see in those first 50 viewings. It's just phenomenal wrestling. I hate the fact that I'm waxing lyrical about Bret Hart knowing that Dan Griffin is in the chat. I would love to shit on him, but you can't. He is the excellence of execution. That just wasn't a moniker. That was the facts. The guy was just on top of his game.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Before we give our ratings for this match and then our final ratings, a little bit of a sad note, I suppose. All 3 of Bret's opponents here, Scott Hall, Mr. Perfect, Bam Bam, no longer with us. Luna Vachon, no longer with us. Mean Gene Oakland, no longer with us. On commentary, Bobby Heenan, Macho Man, no longer with us. The Think, no longer with us. Referee Joe Morella, no longer with us.
Wow.
It's sad, isn't it? It's a lot there.
And we got to keep Earl Ebner.
Anyway, out of 10 for this match, Magsy, and then your overall thoughts. What are you thinking?
I mean, it's hard to actually justify this, but I think that this is the weakest match. But that's like saying it's the worst Ferrari. You know what I mean? It's just, this is going to get the lowest score for me of an 8, and that's mainly because of the shitty booking with the referees. If all that was taken out and we carried on the match where Bret was just farting from underneath, this would probably be, I don't think it'd be as good as the perfect match, but this would definitely be the second best match because of that bit in near the end with the screwy finish. I think I'm going to give this an 8.
Yeah, I've got 8 as well. I could have gone as high as a 9 if it wasn't for the referee nonsense. Just because of the storytelling from Bret and the fact that, and again, it sounds silly because we're marking this match, but the psychology of bringing injuries in and the storytelling of bringing injuries in and past situations from his previous matches into this match, I loved it. I thought it was superb. But the referee nonsense, marks it down. So overall, Magsy, I mean, it's difficult to mark as an overall thing, 3 different matches or Bret Hart's night itself or whatever, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not difficult for me at all. It's a straight 10. Yeah, I've marked 2 of the matches lower than 10, but the overall story, the way that Bret wrestled 3 different ways against 3 different people, it's just absolutely phenomenal. It's a 10 all day.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think it's got, for Bret himself, for Bret's performance that night, it has to be a 10. The matches, I suppose, I've given 2 and 8 and 1 a 10, so I could argue maybe 9 overall. But that, to me, it would be doing an injustice to Hitman Hart. He was that good this night, and not just this night. We're not just talking about one evening in the guy's career. He was fantastic for decades, but this is a showcase as to how brilliant Bret was. So yeah, I think overall for Bret Hart that night, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, like I said, this for me was Bret rubber stamping that he was the best in the world.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Where would you like to go next week if your selection wins?
Okay, so the bad thing about this Bret performance is what it actually leads to. And it leads to a very protracted, and I'm talking over 2 years storyline of him and the King. Now, getting to the end of that storyline, the King introduced a new character in Isaac Yankem DDS, who thankfully went on to bigger and better things with Kane. So I am going to butter up the electorate again, and I'm going to pick a match that includes Kane. But I'm not picking the match because it's Kane. Kane is just the link to the match. I'm picking the tables, ladders, and chairs 6-man tag team match from TLC 2012, which is the debut match of 3 of modern day wrestling's most probably bigger stars. That is the Shield. So I've gone for the Shield facing Team Hell No of Daniel Bryan and Kane and Ryback.
Ryback, why? And Team Hell No, yes. So I'm just making a note of this now. I've seen that. I know I've seen that, but I can't remember it.
Well, this is your chance to see it again.
Yeah, good shape. Good shape. There's some legends in there as well, isn't there? Fair play. Especially on the Shield. Yeah, that's some great legends there. I've got to put some up against it, though, even though I'd be more than happy to watch that. I am going to have a little look on my phone. One moment, because it's on there. There we go. Right. I would like to, speaking of Mr. Perfect, he's going to be the link. I would like to go and have a look at another Mr. Perfect match. And I said earlier on, this is a match that I have not seen. I did my standard. I like to sort of throw it out there to people on the internet who have been writing articles, blogs, countdown lists, whatever. I looked up top 10 Mr. Perfect matches of all time. And as soon as I saw this one, all the others disappeared for me. I thought, I've never seen this. I want to watch it. And apparently it got 4 or maybe 4.5 stars from Dave Meltzer. So as much as we mock old Shagger Dave, probably going to be a decent enough match, isn't it? This comes from a show called Superstars and Stripes Forever. It first aired on March the 17th, 1991. It's available on YouTube if it's not on the WWE Network. So there is a link to it, which I can share. And it's Mr. Perfect, who is your Intercontinental Champion at this point. And he is taking on Shawn Michaels. However, this is Shawn Michaels before the barbershop. So this is Shawn Michaels in a singles match whilst still being part of the Rockers, taking on Mr. Perfect at this event, Superstars and Stripes Forever, which is a special episode of Primetime Wrestling. And it got 4.5 stars from Dave Meltzer, or 4 stars from Dave Meltzer. So I think, okay, massive Michaels fan. I want to see more Mr. Perfect. That could be quite interesting, Magsy.
Yeah, I think Shaggy Dave give it a 4. I think.
4. Okay. There you go. So those are your options for this week's poll. We have TLC 6-man tag match from 2012 TLC pay-per-view. I said that in a really backward, garbled way, didn't I? Shall I do that again?
Go on.
We have a 6-man tag match from the TLC 2012 pay-per-view fought under TLC rules. That's better, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you could have just said a tables, ladders, and chairs 6-man tag team match.
Okay. Either way, it's the Shield versus Ryback and Team Hell No. And Up against that this week is Mr. Perfect versus Shawn Michaels from the 17th of March, 1991. I nearly said 1971 then. It's not that old. 1991. Stars and Stripes Forever, or whatever the show was called. There's a link on YouTube. I can share it to everyone. So I've never seen, and being a Shawn fan, that intrigues me. So there we go. Those are your options for this week's poll. It will be up it'll be up quite quickly this week because I want to get it done so I can watch it. So I'm going to try and fit it in when I get in from work Monday and be all flappy and panicky by the time we go live. Is my plan.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, that plan will not happen, but there we go.
It won't happen. I'll be doing the same thing next week, but there we go. Shall we scan quickly through the chat, Mags, before we hear about Hogan being a Billy bullshitter, and then we get the fuck out of here?
We shall. Dan is saying he's watching season 4 of the X-Men now, trying to catch up before the new season drops, before the X-Men 97, drops. He also didn't know that Hacksaw's full name was Hacksaw Jim fucking Duggan. Yeah, exactly. Well, you learn. It's every day's a school day.
Nicest man in wrestling, Jim Duggan. Lovely man.
Yeah. He then says he does love us to waxing lyrical about Bret Hart. Yeah, I mean, you can't not. Even the biggest Bret Hart hater would struggle to find fault with these matches. Dan also agrees that the My Dad Would Batter Your Dad stuff was garbage, but the in-ring, this was the best. This pay-per-view was the best of Bret. King Pig Bladders totally agrees, and he said that Perfect was perfect here in this match. So, yeah, you may well be right that this is the best Mr. Perfect match ever. Dan says, back when we did that 90s wrestling podcast, King of the Ring 93 was one of his favourite shows to talk about. Yeah, I mean, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, anytime Bret was on the card, it was just absolutely outstanding.
Oh, Magsy coughing away again there. I suppose in a way I could read the chat out to save your voice, couldn't I?
You could, but you're not going to, are you?
Probably not.
And then we'll finish off on a quadfecta of Dan Griffin comments. He says, "No pain, no gain. No gain, no gain." That the perfect Michaels match is tempted. Best ever 50-50. Oh, no. And he can't wait for the poll on Sunday night.
Sunday night. Yes, it's not going to be Sunday night. I might even put it up tonight because if my plan goes well, I'm actually, Magsy, I'm off to Birmingham tomorrow. Okay. I've been very fortunate in that one of my friends has been an absolute legend and treated me to a ticket to go to see Judas Priest and Saxon play live in Birmingham tomorrow night. So I'm off work tomorrow. So my plan is to get this edited and sorted tonight, so it's out earlier than normal, so I can put the poll out early. That's my plan. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, good luck. I hope you make it because you deserve to go to Birmingham.
Thank you very much. Shall we talk about how much Hulk Hogan is a fucking liar?
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Liar, liar, pants on fire, hanging from a telephone wire, squirming, pants are burning. When I lie, my hips start turning.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Look, man, I made a mistake.
So, I think I mentioned to you in our pre-recording chat that this Hulk Hogan lie was actually linked to the show, and it's basically the way that WrestleMania 9 ended. Hogan had won the title after he beat Yokozuna, who had just won the title from Bret Hart. And you kind of alluded to it that there was a deal in place. Bret claimed that there was a deal in place for Hogan to put Bret over at this very event that we've talked about, King of the Ring. And Hogan has said that just wasn't true. So somebody has transcripted the book, Bret Hart's book, his take of the world of cartoon wrestling. So I'm just going to read off a passage of that. So it starts with, a few minutes later, after WrestleMania 9, Hogan came up to me, excited and happy, and said, "Thank you, brother. I won't forget it. I'll be happy to return the favor." I looked my old friend in the eye and said, "I'm going to remember that, Terry." As for Yoko, I was a little bit pissed off at him for going home on me and not letting me show Vince, Hogan, and everyone else that we could tear their house down without their bullshit finish. But even so, it was probably the best match that Yoko had ever had. On May the 29th, Vince called me at home to tell me the big news that I was going to get the belt back. But what I didn't expect to hear was that he was getting ready to call Hogan and hated the thought of telling him that he was too old and too tired for a company whose marketing strategy was now being based around a new generation. Vince wanted to make Hogan into the Babe Ruth of the WWF and use him more as a special attraction. He asked me not to say anything until he'd spoken to Hogan. 10 days later, Vince called me back. He warned me that he was about to tell me something that would make me really angry, and that Hogan was flat out refusing to put me over, saying I wasn't in his league. Vince had decided that Yoko would be getting the belt back instead. I couldn't believe that Hogan would do this to me. I remember him shaking my hand at WrestleMania 9 and telling me he would be happy to return the favor. Vince said that he'd have one more meeting with Hogan to try and sell him on it, but if he didn't go for it, I would be working with Lawler at SummerSlam. Hogan didn't go for it. I wanted to believe that Vince hadn't told me the whole story, and I made up my mind to confront Hogan as soon as he dropped the belt to Yoko. I'd wait until then because it didn't seem right for me to change Yoko's destiny. I showed up at the dressing room for King of the Ring in a dark mood and promptly drew a blackboard cartoon of Beefcake with his head buried in Hogan's ass cheeks with a caption that said, "Be careful, Brutus. You don't want to loosen the screws in your face. Speaking of screws." I was taking my frustration out on Beefcake, which wasn't right, but I was too pissed off to know that at the time. What Hogan had done was perfectly clear to the boys, and they enjoyed the humour of my cartoon. Since Hogan rarely bothered to come into the dressing room, he didn't see it, but Beefcake sure did and went slinking back to Hulk. But it didn't matter to me. Hogan was no longer one of the boys, and he never would be again. I was determined not only to have the 3 best matches on the pay-per-view, but the 3 best matches of my career. Now, Hogan's Saz says, after Hogan's match with Yokozuna, this is more about Bret. 1 second. I know, it's. I told you I have been poorly ill, so.
Well, we appreciate you battling through, my friend. Thank you.
So after Hogan's match with Yokozuna, according to Bret in his book, Bret let Hogan know how he felt and told Hogan to go fuck himself. So this week, Hogan's bullshit reneging on a deal that he made with Bret Hart to put him over because he's a glory-hogging bitch.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's a shame. I think that would have been really interesting as well. Hogan Bret for the title. That'd have been fascinating.
Yeah. Hogan would not have liked it because Bret would have got similar, if not louder, cheers than him.
Yeah, at that point, yeah,
twat.
I think so. Yeah,
he's a twat.
Oh dear, there we go. And on that note, Magsy, I want to say thank you to absolutely everybody in the chat, everybody who reached out on Twitter and Facebook and all that great stuff around non-wrestling topic and so on. It's bloody great being back. I love it. Really do. Do you want to let everyone know whereabouts so they can find you online, my good friend?
So the only place you'll probably find me online is at TikTok, at PodFarmerMags. I do have a Twitter, or X. I have an X, at PodFarmerMags. I probably will only look at it if I get tagged in something, but other than that, I don't go on there. So yeah, follow me on TikTok.
There we go. Anything I'm involved in, of course, is via the network that brings you this show. That's at SJP World Media on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and iTunes and Pod Thing this and Pod Thing that, and wherever you find your podcast, it's all there. So make sure you're chucking it a follow, a subscribe, chuck us a review as well. It helps us out no end. But most importantly, you can find and follow this show itself on Facebook and Twitter at @chain_wrestling, at @chain_wrestling, and that's where your non-wrestling topic, your poll, and all that awesome stuff is going to always be. Thank you so much, everybody, once again, for your patience during the last few weeks. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on our comeback show last week and again this week. Magsy, I'm off now to get this show edited and then listen to Saxon's newest album because I'm seeing them live tomorrow and they're bloody fantastic. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
Barry Windham dyes his pubes blonde.
The